again, this is Lok. Thanks for subscribing to my channel and watching my videos. I hope you enjoy them. If you do, please give me some feedback. Appreciate all the constructive criticism and good feedback that I've been getting already, and I would appreciate a lot more. And let me know what you'd like to see, and maybe if I have some time, I'll definitely record those videos for you. So today we're talking about reloading or hand loading, as Rick, one of my friends, would say. I shoot in the USPSA Open Division using the open gun chambered in 38 Super Comp. And I want to dedicate this whole video to just showing how my process of going through every individual step and producing a single round of 38 Super Comp. As you can see, I have a Dillon 550 progressive, not really progressive, but at least a manually indexed progressive reloader, where the Dillon 550 is a really good reloader. It comes in a multitude of caliber offerings for both pistol and rifle. Right now I have it set up for 38 Super Comp, and I'll go through the whole step-by-step process, give you a guided tour of my reloader, and then go through this every single step to produce the rounds that I do for competition. So let's get to it. So the first thing, very important, before you reload, always have eye protection. So I wear the clearest one. I don't wear any yellow color tinted lens. I just wear as clear as possible because I want to see everything that I do instead of it painted in a different light. So that's what I wear. And the second thing is, when you're reloading, it's always good to wear some kind of a glove. In this case, this is one of those, what is it? Is it a nitrile exam gloves? I bought this from Costco, really cheap. This is Kirkland signature brand. You can buy a bunch in Costco for a very good price. So always wear this. The reason why is because you'll be handling ammunition, you'll be handling projectiles, lead bullets. You have powder, primers, and just basically mess and dirt everywhere. And you don't want to get lead poisoning, so you always wear your gloves. So that's the first two steps. And obviously we need ample lighting. I have enough lights in here in the reloader so I can look into my shell casings to make sure that I have correct ammunition. I have the correct amount of powder in the shell casing before I proceed. I don't want to load around wrongly and cause a squib. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, a squib is basically a shell with very little or no powder in there, just a primer and a bullet. What happens is when you shoot, it makes a weird sound like that. And more often than not, the bullet gets stuck in the barrel. And that's bad because what happens is, especially during competition, when there's a malfunction, what you just tap rack and then you shoot again, right? In a squib, it's bad to tap rack and shoot again because you don't want to shoot again because there is a bullet that's stuck in the barrel. If there's an obstruction in the barrel and you fire the next round, the barrel will just blow up. So that's not a very good thing. So make sure you look into the rounds, look into the shell, make sure you have the appropriate amount of powder before you proceed and put the bullet on top and seal it. Okay, so let's take a look at the reloader. So here's my Dillon 550. Right here in the powder hopper I have Vitavuri N105, which is what I load for my 38 Super Comp round. Let me show you the bottle. That's how it looks like. And I typically try to put at least more than half, or keep the hopper at least more than half full, so that you will have, some people say that the more powder you put up here, the weight presses down on the bottom of the funnel, which produce a consistent charge. I don't know, I've never measured that and never proved the theory right or wrong, but I'll just do it anyway. And then this is the primer. A tube. Right now it's, I believe, half full. If it's full, it'll be the primer rod will probably stick up that much. But right now I think maybe about 40-50 primers in the primer tube. And I have obviously the dies for loading 38 Super Comp. I have a U die, which basically resizes on my 38 Super brass before it goes on to the next few steps. And these are the 4 steps in a Dillon 550. The deprimer resizer stage, deprime, resize, and prime. You move on to the next stage. This is where you flare the brass a little bit and then fill it with powder. Right now I'm running a 10.3 grain of N105. And then move on to the next step, where you take the bullet from here, put it on top of the case, seat the bullet, and then move on to the last case. Last stage, stage 4, is where you actually crimp the brass, and then when you index again, it drops the bullet into its bin. Okay, so that's the Dillon 550. The first thing usually I do is I would want to work on the brass. So let's move on to this messy table. You see I have all my cleaned 38 Supercom brass. I bought this from Starline. These are once and twice fired. I don't know some of them. I have no idea. I tell you how I know if the case has been loaded to its maximum life time. Later on, I'll actually do it with a chamber check. If usually if rounds don't pop in, and it's really hard to pop in, I'll just strip and throw the brass away. So first thing first, I need to lube the brass. I think there's approximately 250 rounds on this table. But what I do is I use a Dillon case lube. Now the Dillon 550 loader comes with carbide dies, which don't require lubrication, but I'll do it anyway. I'll just spray the lube on it generously, and then just make sure it's all coated all around. Excuse the mess. I believe if you're a reloader too, you have the same appropriate amount of mess around the table. So once the lube is all over the case, I let it dry up or evaporate for about 5 minutes, and while I wait for it to evaporate, I'll usually fill the primer tube. Alright, so this is the next step. I use Winchester small rifle primers for my 38 Supercom load. I've heard and I've been given advice to use small rifle primers for my pistol load, so that because the 38 Supercom is loaded really hot, in order to make major in USPSA, we want to try and use as strong as a primer as we can, a primer cup as we can, so that it doesn't flatten or have blowbacks on. I can't remember what the term is, but it makes for a more stronger round. So this is the Winchester small rifle primers. It comes in a tray. Just open the tray up, and then you have 100 primers. And then what I'll do is I use this Dillon primer flip tray. I'll just cover it like that, and then I flip it over. And the primer tray has ridges that you can actually shake, and whatever primers that is not facing up will then eventually face up. Here we go. See, you see 2 of them were face down. Now they're all facing up. Then in order to pick up these primers up, you don't pick it this way, you pick it from the back. So you flip it one more time. So I'll cover it with the second plate, flip the whole tray over, set it down, and open it. Voila! All the primers are ready to be picked up. So make sure you get rid of this. The explosions you hear is actually the 4th of July fireworks. I'm recording this on the 4th of July. So this is the Dillon small primer tube. This part is actually held by a clip, so that when you pick the primers up from this side, it doesn't fall off on that side. So here we go. So pick the pick up plastic area here, and then you start picking the primers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I know there are 100 primers here, but I just want to count anyway, just to make sure that if I reach the end and I only manage to count like 99, or if there's any discrepancy, then maybe I've dropped one, or maybe I miscount, and I just want to double check. Okay, so from this point onwards, I'll just fast forward the video until I've picked all 100. Oh, well, that was long. If only primer pickup was that quick, that would be awesome. But there you go. So this tube is now filled with 100 primers. My primer tube is currently full, so I'm not going to use this. But once the main primer tube on the reloader is done, I'll show you how I fill this. So I'll set it aside. The next thing I want to do is check the charge weight. It's always good to double check. I know it's set for 10.3 grains of N105, but I still want to check it anyway. So I'll usually pick the pin off from stage 3, and take a empty 38 Super brass, put it here, and then what I do, there are many varying techniques of doing this. My way of doing it is just release one charge. As you can see, it's pretty full, 10.3 grains, it's almost to the top. I just do it 3 times just to make sure all the powder is consistently moving down through the hopper. And then the 4th case out of the way. So I'll take that, I'll take the 4th case, and I'll pick the tray here, fill this in, and I'll weigh this using the scale. Okay, so that's a Dillon manual scale, and this is what I use. I would probably buy an electronic version of the scale one day, but I'll settle for this. So what happens is I've set the scale to measure 10.3 grains. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can look at this, but this is set at 10, that's set at 0, and this is 3. 1, 2, 3. So 10.3 grains. If everything goes well, if I lay this tray onto that scale, this pointer here will zero out. So let's see. Put it down here, and voila, there we go, zero out, 10.3 grains. So some folks will do this 3 times and get an average, or maybe 10 times and get an average, but you know, I trust the Dillon reloader. I'll just do it 1 time just to double check that I've not switched to maybe a lighter load for shooting steel and then forgot to switch back. So I just make sure that I check it all the time before I reload. So that's right, 10.3. Let's go ahead. Okay, now that I've done all that, I've reloaded, I've loaded my primer tubes, I've measured the charge weight. That's probably 5 minutes of my time. Then I'll just, the brass should be ready, so I'll just take the one of these Dillon bins, and then just pick up all the brass. One of them fell down on the ground, I'll pick up. Once I'm done. There you go. So done. Maybe 200 over rounds. I think I left one. I'll pick that up, and let's proceed to the next stage. Okay, so now that I've loaded the bin with all the brass, the next thing is I need to prep the bullet tray with all the bullets. I'm actually using Montana Gold, not Bear Creek, but I use this box to keep all the rounds. I'm shooting 124. As you can see, I labeled them 124 CMJs from Montana Gold. These are great rounds because it has enough. Let me find a pointer here for you. It has enough amount of space between this and the ogive before it starts to taper to engage the barrel. The longer it is, the longer the amount of space, I can't remember what you call this here, to engage the barrel, the more accurate your bullet is. So a traditional jacketed hollow points usually have a very pronounced ogive and a lot of space, and that's why it's deemed more accurate. And the way the bullets form is pretty interesting as well. Traditional full metal jackets or bullets like this, usually what they do is they take a piece of copper, and then they load up the lead bullet, and then they wrap it around this way. And by wrapping around this way, what happens is your back is open and usually exposed to the powders. And that's undesirable because the powders, when they touch lead, will usually result in a very smoky bullet. That's why lead bullets, if you shoot them, are really, really smoky. And that's why JHPs or jacketed hollow points are great, because they are formed from the bottom up. So the bottom up like this, and then it leaves a hole on top for a jacketed hollow point. And that, in that sense, is much cleaner. It's more accurate as well. But the CMJs from Montana Gold are great because they're formed from the front without the hole. And there's another reason I don't like to use the jacketed hollow points, because when there's a hole up front, stuff might go in, you know. Usually what happens is, after, you'll see at the end of the video, when I finish prepping the rounds, I'll actually toss them into the vibratory case cleaner and just wipe off all the lubricant and stuff like that. And those stuff might go in and clog up the hole and might affect accuracy. I don't know. But what's great about this bullet is it has a copper piece disc that they put at the end after they form the bullet so that it's protected, so that it will result in a not smoky or smokeless round, if you like. So that's the 124 CMJ. So I'll just take them from the box here, and then I'll just load the tray up with however much I want. Usually I just take 3 handfuls. That's usually about maybe 150 rounds or something over there. So that's ready, that's set up, and now we are ready to go. Alright, so now that we have our brass filled and our bullets, we're ready to load them. So I'm going to take this wide angle shot to show you how I process all the bullets, and then I'll zoom into each individual stage to show you how the bullets are being processed. So I have a few steps I do. Because it's a progressive press, the first few times you do it is going to be different, and once all 4 stages are loaded up, then the process is exactly the same until you finish. So pick the first brass, put it in the slide on this sliding area here and slide it into stage 1. And then what you do is you pull the handle down. It does 2 operations. You see that, you can't see it, but you'll see it later. There's a pin and there's a resizer die. So what happens when you push it down, it resizes the case. The pin pokes the primer out and falls into this contraption that catches the primer. So there's a bucket here that catches this, but it doesn't fall into here yet. It falls in here until you bring it back down again, and it will, as you come down, it will open up the catcher and drop the primer, the spent primer, into the bucket. As you can see, as it comes down, it opens and drops the primer down, and you're set. But that's not all. Usually stage 1 is also the primer to prime the case, and to do that you push the handle forward. So usually when you come down to this stage, I will hold my press with my left hand. I don't have a very stable table. If I had a very stable workbench, I can just push it without holding, but now I just hold on to the press and then seat the primer. And you can actually feel it go in. I've seen a lot of videos when I started reloading, and guys were saying you can actually feel the primer go in. I'm like, what do you mean feel the primer go in? I don't understand. But after reloading so many times, you sort of get it. You can actually feel it fit in, either too hard or too soft, and sometimes when you don't feel it, you know that, wait a minute, there must be something wrong. Did it seat the primer or not? So it's always good to check. So I open it and check, and now there's a primer in there, and that's stage 1. So then what I'll do is I use my left hand while I'm holding on to this, or grab another case and index to the second stage. And while I load the first stage again. So now what it's doing is, for the single pull, I'm actually doing the D-prime size prime. At the same time, I'm flaring the case in stage 2 and filling it with powder. So as I go down here, I'm doing 2 bullets. I'm working on 2 bullets at one time. Pull it back up again. Remember the seat. And then I visually check and make sure that there's powder in here. Okay, 10.3 grains is easy to see because it's right at the top of the case. And then I'll index. Now I load again. Load stage 1. Now you see that they have 3 bullets in all 3 stages. So you're doing 3 operations at one time. First operation again, size D prime prime. Second one, flare the case, fill it with powder, and once you move to the flare of the case is where it comes in handy, because then that's where you actually seat the bullet on top. And if the case is flat a little, it's easier for you to set the bullet up, and it won't fall. So now if I pull it down and push it back up again, I'll do three stages at one time. Here we go. Push it all the way down, and then push it back up, and then prime. Okay. So now you have 3, and then again check on stage 2, make sure that the powder is appropriate. Index to stage 4. Back to, now the 4 steps will repeat itself because all 4 bases are loaded. You just repeat itself, and this is the same rhythm that you go through for every round. So load, set the bullet, and push it all down to do all 4 operations, including the crimp, which is basically to close the flare that you've created in stage 2. Close and crimp the bullet so you hold on to the bullet so it won't come out. And then move it back up, prime, and you're done. So that's all 4 bullets. So now if I index to the next round, the finished bullet will pop up into my bin. And then once all these bullets are done, I'll make sure I chamber check them, and then we'll proceed from there. So let's show you how I do it. Again, that. Push it back up to prime, index, load the case, load the bullet, down, up, again, index. So just keep doing this until all of the whatever rounds that you need are loaded. Okay. I'm not a very fast loader. I can only load maybe 200 rounds in an hour, including all the prep and cleaning and stuff like that. I don't do it really quick. I know I can, but I'll start throwing powder everywhere and it's going to get a mess. I would love to invest in a 650 loader where the indexing is automatic, so every time you pull, it automatically indexes. So now let me zoom in to show you every single step along the way what happens, okay? Okay, so let's do a close-up. So what happens is after you do the last round, what I'll do is I'll manually index across. And then I'll take an empty case. As you can see, this is a spent primer. Load it, slide it on a tray into stage 1. And make sure I load the bullet onto stage 3. And then hold on to the back of the reloader here to get the strength. Push all the way down, push all the way up, and then seat. Wow. Now if I pull this bullet out, you see that it's the new primer. It's been filled in there. And the first stage U die also sizes the bullet. As you can see, move it up to here so you can actually look at it. There is a line somewhere back here, as you can see. So what happens is, typically the 38 Supercom bullet or 9mm bullet has this bulge effect where, because it's an overpowered cartridge, the bullet will bulge back here, and the U die will go all the way down and straighten the case for you. So this is also the point where it starts to weaken. If you fire this case too much, this is the area where it will bulge to a point where you can't actually use it anymore. You can't fit into the case gauge, and that's usually when I toss it out. So that's done. Let's follow the life of this bullet, okay? So I just index it over here. I usually load another one, and we're looking at stage 2. So now the bullet is in stage 2. It's still straight. The neck is still straight up. I need to flare it a little and then fill it with powder. As it goes down, it hits the die and flares it open a little bit, and you come down and then make sure I prime the next round. Just double check. Yes, there's a primer there. And so now it's flat. You can't see in the camera. It's flat, very little bit. You don't want to stress it too much, otherwise the structural integrity of the case would degrade, and you ruin its functionality or its use actually. So index to the next stage. Again, set this one up. Now look into the case visually and make sure there's powder. As you can see through the camera, you see there's powder there. So you know that's roughly 10.3 grains. Set the bullet on the flare. Seat the bullet. Obviously, again, prime the first case. So now that's seated in, but it still has a small flare, and that's when the final stage, final die is for. So index to the final die. Again, load it. Put a bullet. Make sure that it stays up there, and then crimp, close the flare around the bullet. Okay. And then when you last index, you pop the bullet out. There you go, finished bullet right there. So once you hear that sound, that means the primer tube is low on primers, and it's because this stick will follow the primers as it's coming down, and once it hits a low, it will just engage this beeper, a buzzer, and tell you that now it's, I think there are only like 3 or 4 primers left in the tube, so now it's time to reload and refill this primer tube. To refill the primer tube, what I usually do is I take the primer pickup tube here. Look for the point where there is a pin that engages, blocks the primers from falling down. I'll open the warning indicator. And I'll take the primer warning tube, and then I'll insert it onto the back portion of it, so that the tube will follow as all the primers fall into this tube here. So I'll put it right at the mouth. Okay, make sure it's aligned. And then I'll just pull the pin and you hear all the primers fall. So once the primers have fallen in, the tube is falling in as well. You know that it's now filled, so that the primer tube will follow. Just pick up this tube, reset the buzzer, and then now you're ready to go again to continue reloading. So now that I've done loading some of the bullets, I only do this occasionally. What I'll do is I'll just take one or two of them and I'll measure the overall length, or OAL, of each of these bullets, and I want it to be as close to 1250 as much as possible. I sometimes want less than that, sometimes more, so I'll just measure them from tip to base. 1245 is where I'm actually coming at these days. Let's measure another one. 1243. And then let's try this one. 1243. So pretty consistent. 1245. I can go up to 1250 or more, and you'll load pretty well in my gun. So pretty happy with that. So next is to chamber check, and then toss it into the cleaner to clean all the gunk out, or whatever lubricant that it has, and to make them shine. What I do is, before I start the tumbler, I'll just case gauge every round. So what I do is I'll take a handful and fit them in. If it goes in without any needing to push it in, I say that's good. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, grab another bunch, 8, 9, 10. Occasionally you get a round that just won't fit in. My test is if it fits in by just pressing the round in just lightly. If it goes in, fine. If you press it and doesn't go in, that you need to actually put some strength behind to force it in, then I will not use that round. Let's see if I have one over here. Again, I'll speed this up so that you guys don't have to be as bored as I get when doing this step of the process. See, this one didn't sit very well, didn't go in on its own, but if I press and it goes in, that's fine. Okay, I'll use that one. This case gauge is made by Dillon. It's a Dillon Precision 38 Supercom. They make case gauges for all calibers. There's also a double alpha case gauge that comes in a block of 50 rounds that you can just fit all the rounds in, and once it's all done, you just pour it all out. That's pretty convenient, but pricey though. I think that thing is like $60 just for that huge block of metal. So let's continue going, and I'll speed the video up again. So done. Now some people say if you read some of the forums, they say to not put your fully loaded cartridges into the vibratory cleaner. So many people do this, and not a single one has ever reported a problem with it. I've done this so many times. It just vibrates. It doesn't hit anything. It's not hard enough to hit the primer to light it off, so there's no danger of anything happening here. So once it's all loaded and counted, then just turn it on. Before I turn it on and make a lot of noise, I'll turn it on, let it run for maybe an hour, and then pull the rounds out, and then fill my boxes with them. There we go. Okay. So it's been a while now, and we're done. So let's take up the rounds here. I dump all of it into my media separator. And then close it. Use this pin to lock the cage. And spin it around. I find if you vibrate it this way, it's faster. Okay, it's done. Take it out. And there you go. Super shiny 38 Super Cup rounds. Now that we've done with separating the media, we'll take the bullets out, pour them on the table, and set this media separator back. And now it's time to box them up. What I usually do is I just take one of these empty boxes that I bought from Barry's. I believe these are 9mm boxes. You can use all types. I like this so that you can actually, it's transparent so you can actually see right through them and look at the rounds. So I'll just put this in and fit as many as I can. These boxes fit obviously 100 rounds. I know it's a bit of a mess here. I find that if you just dump them like this, it sort of works its way into the holes pretty efficiently. So let me cut to let me show you what I do once I've packed them all up. So once you packed all 100 rounds, I typically print a label out. And before that, I actually take my red pen, my red Sharpie, and I'll mark the back of the rounds so that I know these are mine and it'll be easy to find. When I pick them up from the ground, I looked at the brass with the red line is mine, so I'll just keep them. You know, there might be other people shooting 38 Super Comp where I'm shooting. Then what I'll do is so that we know whose brass that is. So what I'll do is I'll usually hold them straight and tilt it towards this side, not just forward but also to this side, so that when I drag my marker over the rounds, it will just go real quick. So this is how I can actually draw a line pretty quick across all 100 rounds. Just keep doing that. I use red for 38 Super Comp. I use purple for my 45s, and you know, sometimes I just switch between red, blue, purple, and there you go. So once all marked, I know that all my brass. And then I'll print out when I reload it. I use a Dymo Letra-Tag printer. Instead of writing on a piece of paper, I use this. I already typed in from the previous reloading session, so I'll just delete the date. And I'll just say insert date, click OK. So this is today's date, print. And let it come out. It's pretty long. I keep a lot of information in my about the ammo. I'll show you what I typed in. So I'll straighten it out. It says 124 grain Montana Gold CMJ 10.3 grains N105. So I know what my what kind of manufacture of my bullet is. 124 grains the bullet weight, CMJ is the profile of the bullet, 10.3 grains of N105 powder, Winchester small rifle primers, and the date. So that's what I keep. I don't really keep track of OAL or anything like that because I know all my reloader just punches out 1.245 1.243 OAL rounds that will run well in my gun. So that's it. I just put them here, close the box, and then store it. I'm ready to go. So that's it. So that's how I reload my 38 Super Comp competition ammo. And then once I'm done, I'll just remove my gloves. Sometimes it's sticky in here because I'm sweaty. I'll just pull it out, reverse the gloves, and blow like that. Set them aside. And then we're done for the day. So thanks guys for watching. I know it's a pretty long process from start to end, but typically I can reload about 200 rounds an hour, including packing and drawing the line and printing and all that, and boxing all the ammo up, and then I go and shoot. So, but once I'm done after shooting, I'll just pick up my brass, bring them all back in the Ziploc bag, pour them into my vibratory case cleaner, run it through, make sure it's all clean and shiny, and bring it out. Maybe about 2 hours, I think it takes for them to clean up. And once it's done, I start the process again. So that's it. So thanks so much for subscribing, watching, and please send me comments if you can. Appreciate to hear some feedback from you guys about the videos I've done. Thanks a lot. Bye.